And East Texas City Council did not approve their proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year.
That's right. KLTV7's Emma Burns tells us the main reason was funding for Hawkins public safety.
In a 3-2 vote, the city of Hawkins did not pass two proposed budgets on the table. The reason? Funding for a police department and their fire department.
Do what I can to make this town better, get us a police department, fully fund our fire department. We just got a lot to get done, and it's going to cost a lot of money.
Councilmember Mick Medlin made it clear tonight that he wants Hawkins to reinstate a police department. The last standing officer in Hawkins was fired this June, leaving the city with no police department. There were two proposed budgets. For the police department, this meant either receiving around $160,000 or $87,000, a major drop from last year's $384,000. Another area of concern, the fire department's budget was proposed to drop from $148,000 in 2025 to potentially cutting that in half to $78,000.
They're running off of numbers that are 20 years ago, and we should really be around $250,000.
Fire Chief Ty Music says he was upset to see a, quote, non-existent police department receive more funding than their fire department.
It's non-existent, so I mean there's really no need to cut our budget such a drastic mark.
Community members and department heads who attended tonight's meeting were asking for transparency on the proposed budgets and hope to be more involved in planning the next budget. Emma Burns, KLTV 7 News.
Is not passed, voted on. City Secretary Mandy Thomas says the next step would involve action from the state. DP's Texas